This program is recorded and presented by Chippewa Valley Community Television. The audio for this program can be heard on WRFP LP 101.9 FM.
Chippewa Valley Community Television presents Your Local Race. Meet the Candidates 2016.
Hello, I'm Bob Brown, the news director at Chippewa Valley Community Television, and welcome to our ongoing series of interviews with candidates for the Eau Claire City Council. Today we're speaking with incumbent candidate Catherine Emmanuelle. Catherine, welcome.
Hello.
Why don't we begin by just having you share some information about yourself for the voters. You've been on the council since 2012, so some of the people in town know you already, but there might be some who don't. So tell us about yourself.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks for Community Television's work here in Eau Claire. It's a very important community partner. I have, as you know, been on the council since 2012. I graduated from UW Eau Claire in 2011, and I received my master's degree a couple years after that in advocacy and political leadership. I am married, and I have two children, one stepdaughter who is 15 and my daughter who is 11 years old, or as my parents call her, 11-teen.
What do you think, what are some of the personal qualities that you have that you bring to the council do you think are particularly beneficial in your role as a council member? Yeah.
Well, I really try to walk the talk of my public leadership, and kind of what you see is what you get, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that I bring forth some qualities to help Eau Claire thrive, to be resilient, and to move forward. And a lot of those lessons I've taken from my personal life.
Okay, great. In the almost 4 years you've been on the council now, what do you see as maybe your accomplishments that you're most proud of, and looking forward, what you're looking forward to accomplishing in your continued term on the council if you get reelected?
Yeah. So something I advocated for on the city council was to use a civic engagement model regarding the public plaza that's situated in the middle of the Confluence and the mixed-use building. And the public plaza is certainly it's a public park. Technically, it's a public park. And I think it's a magnificent idea to put people literally in the center of the Confluence project. And so I advocated for a civic engagement model called placemaking. And I helped privately fundraise over $15,000 for this exercise to come to Eau Claire. And so a couple years ago, that exercise was taking place in Eau Claire through a couple of meetings, really getting citizens to dream and bring the amenities that they wish to see in a public plaza. And so now the city is getting to a point where they're using that input and working with architectural leaders to help put together schemes and plans together for the city to consider. And so really balancing that public input, that citizen engagement in a meaningful way with public plans.
Have your fellow council members, have they reacted well to that idea you brought up?
I think so. We had I can't remember the final vote for that, but I think it was near unanimous because we privately raised most of that money. And I think the council certainly is recognizing civic engagement as an important element in democracy. Another topic that I'm really pleased to have been a part of is the All-America City Award. I have the All-America City button here.
Proudly displaying. Okay.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that the city won the prestigious designation is because of their civic engagement efforts. And I'd be happy to share more about that. But you know, Eau Claire has this reputation for civic engagement, and I'm really honored to be a part of that in our community.
Great, great. Now, going forward in your next term, is there anything in particular that you're wanting to stress as far as what the council should be taking up?
Yeah. So some of the things that we have are not really brand new ideas. It's using some strategic planning and working on a comprehensive plan that we passed while I was in my last term, and building upon those ideas. And one of the topics I think is really important is looking at our public transfer center. It has been
also known as the bus depot.
As the bus depot. It has been temporary since the early 80s. It's almost as old as I am, and some people might think I'm a spring chicken, but having a building over 30-something years old is not temporary anymore. And so really looking at what's the best location for a new building, what are the amenities. I do currently serve on the Transit Site Selection Committee and have been involved in many meetings to look at best practices from other communities, to analyze our options, and to ultimately bring forth some sound recommendations for the community and ultimately the council to decide where will the new location be.
Do you personally have an opinion of where that should be?
I do. So there's probably going to come down to a couple of key recommendation locations. One will be at the Wood Motor Lot, which is downtown.
Right.
It's a location that's already paid for, and there's no acquisition costs there. And I think it would be a great location, mostly because we just need something new. Mm-hmm. Now, my dream location, and I think one that actually is pretty viable, is to look at closer in the North Barstow area. Okay. There's a parking lot that's along the river that the city already owns that's co-located near some existing businesses and right across the street from the parking ramp that's being constructed. Okay. And also right across the street from hundreds of employees, most of who are young millennials. And I think that the way that we really invigorate our public transportation system is to make sure our transfer center is co-located near users who have a choice to take the bus. Mm-hmm. Only then will we really be able to capture additional revenue to start putting money into the transportation system so that we can make it a better transportation system instead of kind of respectfully hobbling along because we just have very limited resources. So now I think we're at a really important time to attract additional riders who maybe weren't taking the bus before and capture those additional dollars. So we can look at additional amenities like bus shelters. You know, maybe when people are going grocery shopping, maybe we'll have enough money to have bus shelters in the community, and really making it a choice destination, and also making it a place where maybe some of our local tourists want to come in and provide money to our local economy as well.
Okay, great. Are there parts of the way the city operates that you're particularly interested in changing in any sort of way?
Yeah, great question. Well, I first want to say that our city operates with hundreds of public workers, and I could not share about any of the good work that's going in the community without saying thank you to them. So folks at home, if you know any of our city employees or public workers, please let them know thank you so much for their service. None of this is possible without the human face behind the scenes doing all the important work. Some of the things I think are important to look forward is kind of doing an assessment of all of our infrastructure, which we have passed in our strategic plan that runs from 2015 to 2018. And so doing a real needs assessment for all of our infrastructure, and then to communicate back with decision makers on what might be priority items to take care of. The city has an excellent infrastructure system as it is. However, it doesn't stay excellent forever. And so making sure that we're collecting that information and working with up-to-date facts to make best decisions. So I think looking at the infrastructure is really important.
Okay. Anything else in terms of the budgeting process or economic development processes?
Yeah, so a couple of things. With economic development, I happen to serve on the Economic Policy Advisory Committee, which is all I guess made up of council members on the body and the city manager and the economic developer for the city. And one thing that we're looking at is kind of a whole city TIF policy. Right now, our TIF policy mostly applies to kind of development parks and then also the downtown area.
Maybe before we should explain, we're talking about tax incremental finance districts. That's what the TIF stands for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks for that. And so, really, some of the benefits of having a tax incremental finance district is creating additional revenue that would otherwise go to pay taxes. We can divert it for a set amount of time to provide more public infrastructure. And so if we have a TIF policy that looks at the entire city, then maybe neighborhoods who are struggling could tap into some of these funding mechanisms. Maybe there's some businesses who want to cluster together to develop themselves. That's not necessarily located in downtown Eau Claire or in an industrial park. So it's really a finance tool that can be used and can benefit many ways in a community.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. In the time that you've been on the council, actions that the council have taken that you have strongly agreed with?
Well, for
There'll be
sure.
a follow-up.
Yeah,
the flip
excellent.
side of that is coming.
Excellent. Oh, good. So for sure, looking at the gem that is being built in our community, the Confluence project.
Okay.
I have been a strong supporter of that from the beginning. Its inception really is in some civic engagement in the community. It started through some meaningful conversations through the premier civic engagement group, Clear Vision Eau Claire, in the community, which I was a part of before I served on the council. And I think it's a magnificent solution of many people working together to provide not only a cultural hub, but also jobs, a destination where people want to live, where visitors want to come, where we can actually get acts to come to town that we couldn't get before, and just creating this quality of life that permeates the entire community and really the region. So I think that's a project I'm really pleased to have been part of, and worked a lot behind the scenes on the political side of things during the referendum efforts, and glad to know that we won both sides of that. And I think the community, by and large, supports it. I know not everybody does, and I respect that. And so really, how do we then continue to garner trust and to move forward and take some lessons learned as we move forward?
Okay. Now, as I warned you, the flip side of that is things that have happened that the council, actions the council have taken in the last 4 years that you have disagreed with.
Yeah, I think one that was particularly difficult is kind of the new search for the city manager. I really advocated for having a national search, including encouraging internal candidates to apply. And with the structure that came forth, I was concerned that we wouldn't have very many applicants, nor would we have any women apply, or maybe people of color. And that's really a consistent, I guess, lens that I take in being inclusive and building an economic workforce and a municipal workforce, is that we are inclusive for the hiring process. Now, I understand and respect where some of my colleagues were coming from on some of their points, and it's an issue that is in the past, and it's certainly not one I'm looking to pick at the scab, so to speak. Right. But it is something that was very difficult, especially because it's was never about one person. It's really about an idea. And so, I learned a lot in that process, and one of it was I really like process a lot. I like a really square process. And again, many of my colleagues would say that there was a square process, and we just approach that situation differently. So with respect, I move forward. Okay.
That sort of anticipates my next question. That is, in the time you've been on, procedures, the way the council operates on runs their meetings, other kinds of, we talked about the process behind the city manager. Any other procedures that you would like to see changed in the way the city council operates?
Well, I think an opportunity for the council is to continue to work at finding opportunities for meaningful civic engagement with the public, especially around topics like the budget or other decisions that the council makes. Of course, we do run a very open process and have public input at every step of the way. However, just by nature of how local government is set up, it's kind of you're either for something or you're against something. You come and speak and you have 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And as you know, and as folks at home know, any major decisions that are made, it's hard to articulate everything you feel in 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So I think that the community and the council might be interested in looking at some civic engagement models to really help bring in public feedback in a more meaningful way, which is why I thought the plaza exercise was so important, and that's called placemaking. It's a placemaking exercise, and so looking at more of those processes to help bring in citizen input, I think, is really important.
Okay. Looking to the future, the economic issues that are facing the city, how do you help the city make those kinds of tough decisions? Do you have a particular way you approach those big ticket items that confront the council?
Yeah. So my degree at UW Eau Claire also was in economics. I have a minor in economics, and so I certainly look at kind of the economic impact of decision making. And I also look at this whole picture of the community. So it's not really just development that we see on a chart or a graph, but really looking at how is this going to affect other parts of our community? So quality of life, the people behind the scenes, the people in front of the scenes, who are our employers. So looking at maybe some food economic development. We're looking at food truck policies right now. We also have a cannery district that's on the west bank of Eau Claire, and looking at a real regional food hub. And so looking at really this whole picture that kind of addresses social issues, maybe people who don't have access to food. So making sure that we're being inclusive inclusive of that, looking at maybe business owners who don't have a lot of capital to enter the market system, and so maybe a food truck would be a more feasible way for them to enter. So,
well, you've certainly given our listeners, viewers, food for thought today. Before we sign off, any last message you'd want to send to the voters, what they should think about you as they enter the booth?
yeah. Well, I thank you so much for your time today, and I thank you all for your consideration as you make your decisions on April 5th. I would encourage anybody to go to my Facebook page. You can learn more about me at Catherine Emmanuelle for Eau Claire. And I look forward to earning folks' votes, and if I'm reelected, to helping build a community that is resilient, that moves ahead, and thrives.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you, viewers of community television. We look forward to bringing you the rest of the candidates and their viewpoints. We also encourage you to get informed, get out and vote on April 5th, and tune in to CTV channel 994 to see all the candidate interviews. And on election night, tune in starting at 9 p.m. for the updated vote totals as they come in. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.
This program was recorded and presented by Chippewa Valley Community Television. Chippewa Valley Community Television is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, you can contact us by calling 715-839-5067 or on the web at www.cvctv.org.